Good. Well, I'm very delighted because Hush Hush Biz is talking to a writer, a magnificent writer, actually, producer slash actor, and we're, welcoming Lou Sanz this morning. And Lou, hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I like that you put slash actor in there. I don't know if you noticed, but in Audrey, I am in the film um, for a very fleeting moment. And we wrote an entire backstory for me to appear as the person that stood behind Hannah in the driveway.
Oh, really? See, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad you
Oh,
pointed
it's fine.
that
It's a
out.
small Easter egg. Her name was Babs O'Neill, and
Yeah.
she has a long-running feud with Ronnie. So when we were like not shooting, Jackie and I would have full conversations in character, yelling at each other
I
because it
love
was
it.
very.
Oh, and I love it. And well, Audrey, this is your masterpiece that was actually released over a year ago now. Is that correct? Or a year?
Oh no, it was no, it's only just been. It was released in the cinemas. I want to say in October last year.
October.
Yeah, so it's had like so this time last year, or just after this time last year, we were at South by Southwest where we were in competition for the grand jury prize. So that was our international
Yeah.
premiere, which is kind of crazy,
Yeah.
right? Like just saying it now, I'm like, oh my God, I was in Texas,
Yeah.
this time last year. And then it premiered into our Australian premiere was at MIF,
Oh,
Melbourne International Film Festival in August.
yeah.
And then, yeah, it had a cinematic release in October last year. And then earlier this year, it was available for video on demand, digital
Yep.
platforms. And then it's recently come out on Netflix in Australia
Oh,
and New Zealand.
brilliant. Brilliant. Uh,
Yeah.
one of the best streaming channels that is, people always subscribe to.
Oh, the
Um,
big kids. Yes.
yes, which is really good because you know, like my God, this industry is right now, the cinema is struggling. I'm hearing more and more, which is really sad to hear. We need more people attending the cinemas to make the filmmakers survive in this industry as well.
Yeah, well, it's like they have to attend a lot for us to see any of that. But
Yeah.
I hope in a weird way that I think cinema at the moment is kind of a resistance, an act of revolution in a way that we continue to make it, and the idea that we continue to think that people can meet in a community-like space, which we're running out of, and watch something together and have an experience like that. And so the the optimist in me hopes that it'll be something like what happened with vinyl.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, how young
the
people discovered
comeback.
records.
There's a
Um,
comeback.
the comeback, that maybe they'll be nostalgic. Like they'll see a cinema one day, their parents will explain what that was, and they'll be like, "Oh, we should have cinemas now." Like I think places like the Sun Theatre in Yarraville do an amazing job.
Yeah.
Um, for advocating for cinema, and they create it still as an experience. Maybe that's what we should be looking for, more looking at the experience of going to cinema
Yeah.
and kind of selling
Well,
that
yeah, it
point
is.
because it is
It's
different
really,
to sitting
yeah.
in your lounge room
Oh, look,
watching something.
I would rather go to a cinema than sit in my lounge room, to be honest. I just love that feeling when you've got your top choc and your popcorn and you're in the big screen
Yeah,
room, and you're sharing it with people sometimes. God,
sometimes not so much lately,
yeah,
but there's no
I know.
distraction as
I went to
well.
see Black Bag the other day and they were like, it was first release and there was like six people.
For a
And
Soderbergh, like it's crazy, right?
yeah,
Like I
that is sad.
remember, like
Yeah.
yeah, it would have been packed. I think that
Yeah,
that would be like gold class, or the thing that you go into, and there'd be like two of you in an afternoon.
yeah,
Like there
yeah,
seems to be that's across the board. But I think like also I think going to the movies allows you to really just like be present.
yeah.
Uh, where streamers give you
No,
accessibility, and that's vitally important,
yeah.
right? To kind of create content that's accessible for everyone to be able to get
Mm.
um that. And but I'd like them to be bedfellows a bit more, I think. That
Yeah,
would be nice.
that's true. And look, and you're now going to be at the Melbourne Womens Film Festival, which is starting on the 20th and goes to the 24th. And,
Yes.
and this, I'd love you to explain to us in relation why you're there, because you're on a panel which is talking about refining Audrey, and and obviously the festival is you know um, making a lot of topics about female gender diverse filmmakers, you know, not only in Australia but from New Zealand and other
Yeah,
parts.
because Josephine's got her film opens at, yeah, on the Thursday night, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So this is a really quite an interesting film festival that's obviously coming along, which you're going to be part of. And again, it highlights Audrey. Um, and I got to say, it's one of the most funniest black comedy films that I saw last year. It was hilarious. That Audrey is just the most, I don't know, the most interesting character. How did you write her, and how did the script come about?
Oh God. Well, it's actually like quite a long, I'll do the short version of the
Short
long
version. Yeah.
now. I wrote a version of it when I left film school, um, over 20 years ago now. But there were a couple of obstacles. Like I was young, female, ethnic, and funny, and it turns out they weren't huge employable propositions in the early noughties. It's hard to say now like that, but you're like, yeah, it was true. And so I wrote a version of it much more focused on the sisters
Yeah.
and their kind of like relationship, and something had happened to Audrey, and Nora was really at the center of it. And I always have a lot of scripts going and different ideas and stuff, but also, I've always had to have another job. Always been kind of doing stuff like that. And I've traveled and done things. So scripts have come in and out of drawers. There's been times where I couldn't even afford a computer.
Wow.
So, I hand wrote drafts and stuff like that because, when your laptop dies and you've got like 5 PowerPoints plugged into it, we all know that feeling, and
Yes.
the one like international cable that you've got, that you have to have with you everywhere. That
Yeah.
was very much a lot of like my 20s, and I would even say well into my 30s.
Yeah.
Um, I operated like that. And at one point, there was another director attached who was fabulous, but went overseas to become really successful. So good on her. But Natalie had come across the script just before that. We'd met at a speed dating event for writers and producers. And it had been not a great evening, that kind of thing where you just like, my dance card was not full. And I sat down and she knew who I was, which was like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Um, and like I just mentioned, she knew my name because she'd read the form. That was nice. And she'd seen the web series that I'd created with another Melbourne-based filmmaker called Sarah Jane Woolahan, which was based on my blog, which actually we were part of the Melbourne Women's Film Festival randomly a couple of years ago when they did a retrospective on love and other catastrophes. And they found the problematic world of you on the internet
Right.
and asked if it could be a companion piece to the presentation. So that's so random.
Yeah.
And then Natalie read Audrey. And at that point, I'd started to find Ronnie more interesting for me. I had obviously grown up over those years. I was going to have, I went on to have a child, and that kind of changes things. And so that older perspective was much more interesting for me. So it kind of organically shifted in that direction.
Mm.
And it didn't mean that the girls aren't centered, but really I was interested in a woman over 40 on screen, centering it in a comedy. Like that to me was just like where it needed to head and be.
Mm.
And so, yeah, so that's kind of, and then basically the other director left the project and I said to Natalie, would you like to direct it? And she was like, absolutely. It was a little bit more X-rated than that, the response at the time. But yeah, so that's kind of that, like, and then I'd refine it a bit more in that as we cast as well, just like small things here and there. But to be fair, like, Keith Thompson was my script editor for the version we ended up shooting, and he's amazing
Yeah.
himself. He's like my ride or die when it comes to that sort of stuff because he knows my brain. So
Yeah.
he doesn't really question anything. He's great like that. So, when I'd be like, this seems like the logical conclusion to the film.
Yeah.
Because, in my mind, Ronnie, when what happens to Audrey happens, it's almost just like she's like, what would a hero do? You know, like, that's kind of her mindset. Like, what would a hero do? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I didn't realize it was dark as everyone says it is, by the way. Like to
Oh,
me, there's a
really?
lot of heart in it. I know it's dark. I love black comedy and dark comedy, and that is definitely the space that I sit in. There's no getting around that at all.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's really because I just think, oh no, it's human. Like that's when I'm watching it, I'm like, it's human. It's
Oh,
really
there's
real.
there are a few Audreys like that out there.
Instagram is just like, I
Delusionally.
mean, social media is just a banquet
Yeah.
of it, And so I have had people be like, "Oh, those people don't exist," and I've never met such and I'm just like, "Well, then you must be the morally corrupt person in your friendship group, then, and no one's told you." Because I'm telling you, they're everywhere, you know, and
Yeah.
stuff. And so, yeah, so that's kind of the long and the short of kind of how it came
And
to be. And then it just started to keep going and got a lot of support from Screen Australia and then Screen Queensland were like, come and shoot here. So, it
oh,
just,
fantastic the agencies, got behind you. And so they should with something like this, because yeah, it's just yeah, it's incredible stuff. And what a script for an actor to, have. And all I've got to say, the casting was just brilliant all
casting's
round.
great, isn't it? Yeah. We had, at first, like we had it's hard because casting's like another level. So, you do the script, people want to make it, and you're like, okay, cool. Now we'll cast it. And casting's a real obstacle,
Yeah,
you know, because
yeah,
you've got to kind of get it all right. You've got to get the right people. And there's all these like arbitrary things that you've also got to have, for sales agents and stuff like that to do with getting a film up and financed.
that's right.
But I thought Jackie's casting was great. I'd been watching some TV and saw her on her show, The Educators, which is a New Zealand show.
Oh, okay.
And I'm the producer and the director, and I was like, we should be looking at Jackie.
Hmm.
And that kind of all came together relatively fast, actually, that part of the process. And then obviously we had our Cormacs that came in and that. And Jeremy just was
Hmm.
amazing,
Hmm.
And for me, it's like I've seen him on my screen since I was a teenager.
Hmm. Hmm.
He's been on, I did harass him a lot with kind of like, how many times have you played a cop? How many times have you played a cop on the water? How many times have you played a cop on a mountain? How many times have you played a cop who was really a bad guy being a cop? Or how many times have you played a cop,
He would, I'm sure he would love
a
that.
good friend of mine now. But yeah, I was like, so, and he was phenomenal when he came in, and the same with everybody. Like Hannah, I'd seen we got a pre-screener for I think the latecomers, and that and seen that. But then also I'd seen her a lot on like social media and being interviewed and stuff like that, and she had quite a sense of humor to her as well. And
Mm,
that kind of was a very like we were like she'd be great for that role.
yep,
And so we had a chat with her and
yep,
that. And then Josephine was, she terrified us when she auditioned. She absolutely terrified us, which is perfect for Audrey because Audrey kind of does need to do that.
yeah,
And yeah, they were yeah, but even like I think all the characters in it are great. Like, Aaron Farzo playing Burke is brilliant.
yeah,
We've got heaps of like smaller roles,
yeah.
but they all just do such a good job with what they've got,
They
you
do.
know,
Yeah,
every
they
one of them. So yeah, I was thrilled.
yeah. Oh, you should be thrilled. You should be so amazingly proud of, what you've done. It's something that I think, you know, people who haven't seen it and discover it are going to say, "Oh, wow, why hadn't I seen this yet?" And it'll be on their favorite list. So it'll be
Yeah, it
so
seems that's a
cool.
bit of like the
They'll say,
response.
"Oh, it's on Netflix. Let's watch it."
They find it. They
Yeah,
find it. They
yeah,
absolutely find it. I do. I hope that I love like, I was talking to someone the other day about like, Muriel's Wedding, how that gets
yeah,
reimagined now. Where it's like, oh, it's about
yeah.
the ABBA musical. And I'm like, she's committing check fraud and her mum kills herself. Like, it's a dark, dark movie. And they're like, really? I thought it was just about ABBA. And you're like, no, But we don't have that. We don't have ABBA soundtracks, so I don't know if that like redefining of it will ever happen, that way.
I know.
But like we've made like we talked about Bad Boy Bubby the other day and stuff like that. We've made some really great dark,
Yes.
humored content here in Australia, but it
Mm,
doesn't get platformed very often and doesn't get, it doesn't win all the awards. It doesn't do anything like that. I think there's still a bit of a comedy versus drama
yeah. Yeah.
goes on here about what justifies a good film. Like
Yeah.
what do we
Absolutely.
call a good movie?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that I think they're quite arbitrary measurements at the end of the day. I think,
Mm,
you know, I'd
yeah.
love to make another Audrey. I'd love to do.
Oh, can you do a sequel?
Not the sequel. I've always thought about doing the stage musical.
Oh, the stage. That would be amazing.
That would be amazing,
That
wouldn't
would
it?
be
Yeah,
great.
totally.
That's a great idea. I think
Yeah.
that would be an absolute winner, adaptation for stage, because yeah, you could change it, and bits and pieces of it
Oh, the
for
heightened nature of it lends itself, I think, to that. They did it with The Waitress, which is another film, female filmmaker, and that they've made into a play. But we should talk about the Melbourne Women's Film
yeah.
Festival and
Let's touch on that because
the world
yeah,
domination.
you're on that panel. So what are we going to expect there?
We're talking about Reframe,
Yeah.
which is an accreditation that Audrey received. We're the first one in Australia
Mm.
across film or television. At the moment, it's only eligible for film, so no wonder there's no television. Should have said that up front. And it was something that was devised by IMDb Pro, Women in Film LA, and the Sundance Institute
Yep.
to really kind of throw a focus on productions who had really large representation, not just on screen, not just necessarily with the above the liners either, but also with crew and other heads of department as well, being either, um, yeah, cis women, women that present another way, gender diverse, um, and we had quite a large representation of that on Audrey. That was not something that we set out to do, by the way. It just happened to be how we were working, and I think the people that we want to work with and
Great.
that sort of thing. But yeah, so we were approached by Women in Film Australia about whether or not we could be the ones that go for the first time to receive that accreditation in Australia, be the forerunner. And Past Lives has got it, but the Barbie movie, Bottoms, like amazing company that you keep when you get that. And so we were thrilled. There's part of me that's always like, we're still doing this, you know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I said to my partner the other day, like watching what's happening around the world, in fact, this visibility of not just us telling our stories or different stories or whatever it is. It's more about the visibility of seeing people working in these spaces
Hmm.
is actually more important now than I think it's been in a long time, because I think it's definitely threatened in
Mm.
this new world order that's kind of
Oh,
emerging.
it is
I
absolutely.
just said to my mum, I was like, oh, I'm so tired of fighting. Like, at some point you're just like going, oh my God, but yeah, gearing up for that next thing. So it seems quite timely.
Yeah.
And we were just thrilled because I just looked at the list and was like, oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
This seems so good, and it's such good company, and it just shows you that women and gender diverse people are making and contributing to screen culture
Yeah.
in a way that I think goes overlooked and dismissed, but
Yeah.
shouldn't be, because we're kicking it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're talking about some really highly commercially successful films, also some small indie ones, some cult favorites, award favorites, critic favorites. It's a real mix
Yeah.
as well. So that's what I like about it as well. It kind of makes that award accessible,
Yeah.
because it really is open to anyone
Yeah.
who does, meet their criteria. It is an accreditation. So if you are a filmmaker, even now, you've made a film in the last like 12 months or whatever, have a look and see if it meets your criteria. If you meet their criteria, you too can also get this accreditation. It would be great to see more Australian films
Fantastic.
really embracing that, I think would be good to say that like this is important to us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's encouraging for any filmmaker, but especially for this particular area for female driven filmmakers and diverse. Yeah, I think it's so important to have this. So yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
creates more opportunity as well,
it
hopefully,
does. Oh,
and just the networking alone, I think that
oh,
comes with it, and
networking.
again, the company that you keep, that's vital. We don't get together in urinals and
Yeah.
men's only bars and things like that, We've kind of missed that, the amount of deals that I've heard that have been done, in a toilet, and then they've come out and they've gone, we've solved it.
Oh, it's either in the toilet or on a golf course for the
Or yeah,
big for the
the
big
Melbourne
boys.
Club, whatever it is.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah,
Women
so
are multi-skilling, with families and
we're
another.
the ones working at the club, also trying to get up at the same, that's entirely it. But I think like so for something like the Melbourne Film Festival as well creates an access point for
Yeah,
people to meet,
yes, yes,
and that because those spaces are still really important to
yeah,
have,
yeah.
you know. And that, so yeah, so that's what we're doing, redefining Audrey, I think, like, and it's not even a year out. And I kind of love that
Oh, it's
it's kind of
fantastic.
taken on this life of its own, that people are interpreting it a certain, or
Yeah,
reframing it, a
yeah.
certain way as well. Like, that's really cool.
That's very cool. Well, it was really cool to talk to you, Lou. I can't tell you. I'd love to catch up another time because you
Anytime.
are amazing. I just love your work. And I wish I could, blink myself down to Melbourne for this, but I'm sure anyone that's, going from interstate, will love this there. And it's always a fabulous festival to attend
Yeah,
anyway.
and Natalie Bailey will be there as well.
Oh,
The
excellent.
director as well. She'll be coming
Oh,
along. She
she's
told me this
cool.
week. So she's going to be my plus one.
Yeah,
Um,
nice.
so I was like, oh, you'll just do the panel with me then.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so,
Oh,
and I
what
think we've got a speaker from Reframe there as well, which is great. So that
oh,
we've got a representative
yeah,
of it there as well. But yeah, Women in Film in Australia has done an amazing
yeah,
job in making that.
yep, they have. They're really
Yeah,
big applause to them. Okay, so
absolutely.
thank you. Thank you very much from us from Hush Hush Beers and
No, all good.
best for the festival and all the best for everything moving forward. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Go and
Appreciate it.
adapt that onto stage.
Yeah, let's just do it. Yeah, we'll fringe around just me, one woman show.
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
Ah,
I'll play all the characters.
yeah.
Anyway, I feel like that's a darker version of Audrey than what we've already made. It's like real, real, real depressing about that.
No, go for it.
All right,
All
cool. I'll
right,
see you.
Lou. Thank
Bye.
you.
Cheers.